And EDG, if they don't ban another support in trade for Trace Esports, Trace will just get a free flexible support coming into their lineup. So this is really clever here. Now Zeri will be removed by Trace Esports. Now it will depend on EDG. What do they want to ban away? If Ornn is left open, Trace could pick it up, but Ashe will be removed instead.
Yeah, leaving both of those supports in the pool. Actually, the focus for Trace Esports does go into the marksman position. They do get the Sivir, which will allow the Vladimir to get into these fights a lot better. Whenever she pops her ultimate, it will give the movement speed to the members of Trace Esports, and it will allow this Vladimir to get to the back lines. But I do like the answer as well, having a safe marksman pick in the Xayah. She just needs to pop her ultimate to dodge a lot of the damage coming in from a Vladimir.
Yeah, and this is also a pretty much a good pickup coming for the side of EDG. We all know that a Sivir really accelerates that team fighting potential on a team composition, and banning it away means that Sivir will not have a much more easier time, given the fact that Nautilus is one of the strongest early game supports in the game right now. So Trace Esports has to really just put on their back foot, step back a bit, and pick up the Galio instead.
Yeah, I also like the Galio because it provides a lot of global pressure right now coming in here for Trace Esports. It's not only the Shen, also the Galio having that semi-global ultimate to be used whenever a side lane gets pushed. Right now, with the compositions of both teams for Trace Esports, they're the team who can just hunker down, scale into this mid to late game fights, because Sivir is going to deal so much damage in the clump up fights. Vladimir as well will be able to do the same thing if they can just play a bit more safely in the early game, not give up a lot of gold against EDG, which we kind of expect to be aggressive coming into this game one. Then Trace Esports might just have these openings to be able to punish mistakes and get leads against the composition that EDG is manning for game one.
Yeah, we'll see if they're going to pursue for that, because as you have mentioned, so much global presence for the side of Trace. Although on the flip side, when it comes to that damage aspect, they need quite a bit to be able to reach that point. But for the side of EDG, they have a strong balance of early game champions and late game champions. So we'll see who takes game one coming into the series. It's EDG versus Trace.
Yeah, game one here of this best of 7 series. When it comes to our best of 7s in the CN conference in particular, we have been seeing a lot of wins when it comes to the blue side. Yesterday it was kind of different. We did see 2 red side wins yesterday, but there has still been a more prevalence in the blue side, and with game 1 being in the hands of EDG for the blue side, kind of expect for them to get a bit of early start in this series. But still, as you mentioned, there is a bit of a balance when it comes to competition. EDG, they have the early game, they have the late game as well. But it comes for Trace Esports, they have ways to capitalize on overextensions and over commits from EDG because of the 2 globals that they have. If Trace Esports is able to punish any of those overextensions coming from EDG, it may very well just be a Trace Esports victory for game 1.
100%. We'll see if Trace Esports can find that victory, because from the past, it is EDG who's able to land side win up against Trace Esports. From what we have mentioned a while ago, EDG is pretty much the Titan Slayers, the God Slayers coming into the CN conference, on how they're able to break the win streak for the likes of Trace, for the likes of Thunder Talk. So, future specs should still be given coming into this matchup. And EDG, really the surprising part about their composition and how Jace comes through into their lineup, given how it was nerfed in the past, given also that Aatrox and the likes are still open into a pickup. So it will be interesting how EDG will be able to capitalize on to the likes of their jungler to go aggressive early on, given how much advantage as well it is compared to Shen in the early game.
Well, I think right now for Jace, right, especially in game 1, so, but for that, Langui going in.
Versus Punch as well, but pretty much a trade of supports, very tanky innately, so no kills will still be locked in.
Yeah, could have been a bit more dangerous if EDG or Trace Esports kind of overcommitted into that fight. But as you mentioned, just 2 tanky supports, trading things out on the bot side. But going back to your point, right, in the Jace being a bit nerfed when it comes to the jungle position, kind of similar as well to some of the popular junglers that we have seen that are more traditionally in the solo lanes, like Aatrox as well, has been nerfed in terms of his clear. A lot of his abilities, or especially his his first ability, is only a 70% damage right now to monsters. So there is a bit of a nerf in terms of that, but especially for games 1 of a best of 7 series, you kind of try to bank on comfort. But top side though, 0711 does get spotted here.
Will get spotted by a ward by Lee Sao. Good placement coming in from the Fiora for the side of Trace Esports to gain information on possible ganks. So EDG will not be able to get that gank through on the top side of the map.
Yeah, so a lot of wards actually. The top side of the map here for EDG, really giving a lot of safety here for Shang in the top side. But now, as we mentioned, right, there's not really a lot of aggressive plays that Trace Esports needs to do, because they just are very much fine with scaling into these fights, trying to go for these club up layer on big team fights with the Sivir, with the Vladimir, to really make use a lot of their AoE. Not to mention as well, Galio thrives in those kinds of fights because he can just have a lot of easy taunt targets around him. Especially looking at the composition that EDG is manning, it's only really the Xayah who would have more often than not be far away from the members of Trace Esports, but 07 is here for the game.
Beanstalk exhausted, already used on the ADCs. Tap brought down to half HP, but typical of tank supports, not that easy to burst down. And remember, we still have Shen availability for Trace, so that could be a Stand United coming into the bottom lane that could change the tide of that full-on engage.
Yeah, and that might have been as well what EDG is backing on, right? To burn the Stand United, it has a long cooldown. If you're able to burn the Stand United before we get into this 5-minute mark when we get these objectives, might have been something they were looking at. But unfortunately, the Feather placement also wasn't really in their favor because the Xayah was hitting the marksman. It wasn't really behind the tank which they initiated the fight on. If they were able to root down the tank, it might have forced down the Stand United. But now, as it stands, we're going back into these farming, getting lane controls, and we also see the swaps right now with Sivir as well as the Xayah being brought to the mid lane.
Brought into the mid lane. This is very traditional right now when it comes to Wild Rift. Given 4 minutes and 30 seconds, these dual lanes will switch into the mid lanes. This is what we have been talking about during the draft, right? How the mid laners and bottom laners really should be adaptable and flexible when it comes to these champions, because eventually these two lanes will switch every single time to gain advantage when it comes to objective. Now Langby having the Drench line on the tag, buying time as well for EDG to go for the Rift Herald, but Trace Esports will take it in the end. It's a 1-for-1 objective trade. EDG takes the Rift Herald.
Yeah, it's a handshake between these two teams. EDG takes the Herald while the Dragon is secured by Trace Esports, but a very early commit here in the Herald on the top side. It will be secured by EDG. First turret does go to them, also giving a bit of a gold infusion right now. A lot of attention actually being put up here in the top side. They might have tried to get Shelly a second tackle to the turret, but nah, it didn't happen. Trace Esports was able to stop that, and so the top side is a lot open. It allows now for EDG to put wards near that river, especially in the tri-bush in the top side. But we usually see Herald plays being put down in the mid lane because you are able to have the map more open. So for EDG, they won't be having that, at least for the early part of this game.
Yeah, for the early part, that will not be something that EDG will be able to take, or Trace Esports, even if we're gonna look at it, like tier 1 turrets are still available coming into the mid lane of the map here. EDG though, X-Jang, much damage onto Hueva, but in danger with Lisa coming through as well. They have so many members for the side of Trace Esports to come into fray immediately. When full-on engage happens, they have a lot of global presence, as you have discussed a while ago during the draft, so EDG still has to be wary of that.
Yeah, EDG really respecting the defenses that Trace Esports putting up, but Yusa getting cut out.
Branch line onto one, Stand United onto Yusa, gives a lot of sustainability. Ignite will not be enough, and now will be Trace Esports who answers back with a lone, being the first blood for Trace.
Yeah, we were just talking about how EDG was respecting the defensive play coming from Trace Esports, and they just calculated the damage that they had a bit too a bit too short, I would say, because Yusa almost went down right here. The Stand United was a bit late, but you could say it was also very clutch right here, allowing Hueba to get into the fight and even catching alone, being caught out, giving the first blood towards Trace Esports.
Yeah, it was Alone who became too aggressive. He used the flash to go over the hill, wherein you already had the Stand United, which was one of the expectations there. But on top of that, he also used the Feather Storm to be able to try and snag up that kill and clutch up onto that 1 HP for Yusa, but it still was not enough. Yusa was too far ahead to go into the Honey Fruit, so that was the price to pay. How EDG really goes this hyper-aggressive playstyle time and time again. If ever they continue, it's not looking that good for EDG.
Yeah, it's not looking good as of yet for EDG here. But again, it's just only been 1 kill, 1 tower in their favor so far. Gold is slightly for them. We do see a lot of attention being put here in this mid lane because EDG knows if they're able to take down that turret, it opens up a lot of possibilities for them. But sadly, it's a Sivir, and we all know how strong Sivir is at clearing up waves.
Corn, Sanguine Pull, first hit out, Shuriken Flip. Already hits out, but the ultimate from Korn saved himself to the depths of you.
Yeah, that could have been a big kill in the bot side, because for your EDG, if they're able to wrestle control, a better wrestle control over here, it would stretch the resources of Trace Esports and allow them to have more openings in destroying these turrets. But luckily there for the Vladimir, wasn't able to be taken down, still had more HP to work around the Shuriken Flip that Yo was able to hit on Korn. And now, it's still very passive between these two teams, not a lot of movements. I believe we're gonna see a lot more explosivity when we get into the second Drake fight. But actually, EDG about to secure a turret here in the bot side.
They will secure that turret, and this will give them a lot of advantage and priority. Coming into the next dragon that we've had, 15 seconds left before Infernal Drake comes up, and EDG securing that tier 1 into the bottom lane. Gives them a good position and map control advantage.
So a lot of map control advantage because they can shove the bot side of the map effectively without the first turret there. Mid lane is being heavily defended here by Trace Esports. Well, EDG already putting up wards into the dragon. Oh no!
Jumps in over the hill, stuns connects. That will be 1 man down as Galio is removed from the comp of Trace Esports. But you coming into the bottom lane also in danger. It's a 2v1. Lisa going in with the lunge as well, directly hitting Akali. And EDG going to fight 4v4 up against Trace. Trace wants to contest this. 2k HP remaining. The only one left standing as Trace steals it away from EDG. There's no more value to go to that, and EDG just lost it.
Yeah, EDG lost the Drake right there. It was Hueba who got the second smite off. I believe for EDG, they went for the earlier smite around 1,200 HP. But Hueba, ever patient in that dragon take, was able to secure the Infernal Drake for Trace Esports, netting them the Dragon Soul point in this game. As we see the replay right here, we're actually going to see the kill on Yo in the bot side. Yo, I think he was just trying to go for this, for a trade here against Korn, not really knowing where Lee Sao is. Unfortunately for him, he met up with 2 players of Trace Esports, and in the end, he was taken down. At this point in time, it was a solo laner that was down for the side of EDG, while only a support down for Trace Esports. That's why when we saw the dragon fight, Trace Esports was very much confident in trying to steal that Drake away.
Yeah, and once again, from what we have mentioned, the EDG's composition wants those early game leads. They have the Jace, they have the Nautilus. These are early game champions. When it comes to those battles, when it comes to those engages, they should have won it because they want those snowball potential. But right now, Trace Esports really on a position of advantage as they're really on a stronghold up against EDG.
Yeah, Trace Esports is in the position that they want themselves to be, as we were talking about, right? They don't really need to do a lot of things. They don't need to be super proactive across the map. Yes, they have the tools to be proactive, but that is not what is being asked of them at this point in time. Although, if you do give EDG an inch, they can also take a mile with the composition that they have. We just saw as well how strong the poke is coming out from the Jace. If EDG is able to take advantage of this, of trying to take the mid lane or even some of these objective fights, it would push out some of the carries from Trace Esports. So honestly, things are still up in the air here. But at the same time, Trace Esports has been doing a great job holding on to this mid lane turret.
Ooh, Drench Line was missed just because the Justice Punch step back. Those micro plays. I'm not gonna get bored of that any time of day. It's just too good. But pretty much, Trace Esports right now in EDG is on even footing. But what makes Trace Esports on pretty much a big advantage from here on forward is the tier 1 turret into the mid lane and also the objectives they were able to secure. The first 10 minutes off that game, 2 dragons already. So it's really good setup.
And that's why sometimes I feel like it's worth it to just throw the Herald in the mid lane, even if it doesn't immediately kill the turret. Just to put it down at like 400 HP or sub 500 is enough of a threat. You just need to hit it a couple more times and the tower falls down. Unlike in what EDG did earlier, it was to take down the top side turret to get that immediate gold infusion. The longer the game goes, the longer the teams will be able to mitigate that, because gold doesn't really matter the later game, especially when you get to the late game, because everyone's gonna be full build, and especially with the composition that Trace Esports has, they're gonna be able to make use of their items a lot more against EDG. Because looking at the composition as well, right, for EDG, Renekton not exactly known to be strong in the late game, especially in the side lane situations against the South Fiora, where Fiora is really strong. She can burst down these tanky champions, especially she already has the Hull Breaker finish on her side. Just gonna be super strong in the side lanes here for the Fiora. Sivir as well, really strong. Her boomerangs can just bounce around with their hits, as well as the Vladimir. For the EDG's Jace on 0711, Jace feels like he will always scales a bit less when it comes to these later fights. So we're gonna see how EDG adapts, because they're on a bit of a timer compared to what Trace Esports has.
We definitely are. 0711 used up the Shock Blast, but once again, Sivir is a very unique champion in APAC. Jam flashes in along with Dominus. Korn is stuck. Stand United has to be forced away, but 0711 and Langry goes in for the back flank. Korn is in danger. One more shot from far away. The Shock Blast secures it. The 5v4 that brings EDG on an advantage. Perfect execution across 2 members. And now Yusa is in danger along with Tak. But EDG on a fair share of HP disadvantage as Hueba is trying to run away over the mid lane.
Yeah, Hueba might just be able to get out of here because it's only the Xayah chasing him down. But what a great play right there from EDG. Immediately seeing a target, immediately going for the kill. This has netted them a couple of kills to their side, as well as the Dragon, denying Dragon Soul away from Trace Esports. As we head into this replay right here, it's gonna all start out with X-Junk. An immediate flash stun on the Vladimir. It felt like things could go south for them at this point in time, because the answer from Trace Esports was running towards them, but EDG just kept hanging on. The thing with these kinds of fights is these are the things that are not in the script, not in the book. It's so unexpected that when teams are trying to play by the book, they could just get caught out, and that's what felt like how Trace Esports lost that fight, and how EDG just caught them by surprise.
But it's a good thing. They have to force that. EDG has to force that issue and has to force that engage, because we have to look at the prior situation before that fight. It was Trace Esports who has one dragon away to get the soul, and that was the Ocean Drake. With that engage, winning for the side of EDG, they could get the Ocean Drake. They could deny the soul. Now this brings it on a much more unfavorable state for Trace Esports, not having the soul for the likes of EDG.
Yeah, but right now, looking at the bot side, it's still Lee Sao with a big advantage here on Xiao Zhang. It's not gonna be easier for him as the game goes on. But yeah, as in your point, right, it deters, or it stops Trace Esports' clear road into the late game, and EDG kind of just making that more murky at this point. We also saw him just being in the thick of it on that Akali, bringing so much damage down into the composition of Trace Esports. And you could say it's also one of the weaknesses of Sivir, being such a short range marksman. She gets hit by a lot of the damage coming in from EDG, and now these two teams are just scaring each other. The Baron
goes in for the face check. Immediate Justice Punch. And now Drenchline over the backside, followed up by Renekton. It's Lee Sao who will be the target. Immediate Stasis Enchant to buy time. X-Jang is down low already despite the Dominus availability. This forces them to retreat as Trace Esports bites them in the back.
Yeah, it was EDG really staring down Trace Esports and Tak just saying, no, we can't just have any of this. We're gonna go in. We're gonna try and fight you off of this Baron Pit, and they have done that successfully, netting them some wards, netting them a bit of control over the Baron Pit. But unfortunately for them, they weren't able to put down any wards because I believe Tak might have finished up his supply. But Elder Drake is up right now, and both of these teams are looking at that big objective.
That's a bigger objective that we're talking about. The Elder Drake. Corn already down low with one Shock Blast.
Not the damage, yeah, that's accelerated Shock Blast, putting him to half HP, but still Vladimir able to recoup that HP bar. But EDG having full control over the river right now. It's a bit of a dangerous proposition for Trace Esports to just walk in here. There's still Nautilus that can catch them out. Yo on the sidelines can jump on the back line. EDG in such a good position right here, although Alone is a bit far away from the fight that's brewing between these two teams.
Yeah, and Trace Esports has to hunt Alone, because if Alone is left open and getting those free hits, it will be danger. And now Pack, Justice Punch knocks up onto Langui as Langui has to force out the stasis. And Weiba, the perfect taunt that they did. It's Trace Esports who now gets a numbers advantage. Here's Entrance, come in into Dragon's Pit as Yu is in danger, has to force out the flash to retreat over the hills, and that will be Trace who takes the Elder Drake.
Yeah, Trace gets the Elder Drake, gets a kill as well, and for Trace Esports, great timing on the fight. I love how the Observer also showed us that there was a ward that spotted out the Akali. As soon as the Akali went out of vision, as soon as she was far away, Trace Esports caught out the Nautilus and put him down. That gave them enough of space, enough of an advantage in that Elder Drake fight to net them that objective. Top getting catch.
Just has to force away the flash as well. Weiba goes for the taunt, but Alone use up the Feather Storm to buy time. Weiba used up the flash as well with a smite, slows him down, and Weiba with the Elder Drake goes for the execute.
Yeah, and Alone left as his namesake, all alone right there in the river. He couldn't do anything against Weiba's Shen. Has really so strong at this point, having that Elder Drake as well. Then Trace Esports is destroying turrets in the mid lane.
Force out Dominus, but Yuza is on the hunt. A lot of mobility for Tak and Yuza as well combined. It's just a force to be reckoned with for Trace Esports. That could really just landside EDG, so respects have to be given. They have to burn away the Elder Drake along with the Baron buff, but Lee Sao split pushing into the bottom side. Another wall that EDG has to face. Baron already going through as Inhibitor into the mid lane has fallen.
Yeah, mid lane has fallen. Inhibitor turret has gone down. That is an opening for the super minions. Bot lane as well has fallen here. EDG's base is in tatters as they try to defend against the onslaught that is Trace Esports.
Korn jumps in with the Proto Belt as well. Alone will be able to go in for the Feather Storm. Now Lee Sao in the front lines has to force out a flash along with the stasis, but Nexus will be open and Trace will strike first in the series.
Trace takes first blood here in our best of 7 series, the second in the upper bracket second match. They're able to take down EDG, exact their